Well, I really want to hear your story. So, could you start way back where you had the TMJ issues?
Sure, yeah. So I last fall started having some issues with my jaw. I've always had issues with TMJ just as a singer. It's something that we all kind of struggle with because we, use our jaw so much. Started having some major issues with that to the point where my voice teacher was noticing it because I couldn't fully extend my jaw. It was causing me to go very sharp. I've never had pitch issues like that before. And so she started the process of saying, hey, you need to go get this looked at. This might be more than just a little bit of TMJ. Normally I would just, go to the chiropractor like once a year, get it resolved that way. So I kind of went all around to every kind of doctor trying to figure out what treatment to do. I was at orthodontists. I was, in and out of chiropractors and physical therapy. So that semester was really difficult. And was not able to find anything. And I ended up having to postpone. I was supposed to do my recital, my senior recital the next semester. Ended up having to choose to postpone that, which was really hard. And then I was essentially like out of singing for almost a whole semester, and I'm a vocal performance major, so that was like really hard. Classical, I should say, out of singing for classical music. So contemporary stuff I could still kind of do, but classical, I really just I couldn't sing the style. I couldn't do what I needed to do with my jaw. And so come December-ish, well, I guess end of November, my mom discovered something called upper cervical chiropractic as being a possible treatment for TMJ. So we went in kind of as a last resort, and they took an x-ray of my spine and discovered that I had severe scoliosis, and that my atlas basically was out of place, which is something that's like right here. So my whole neck basically was sitting sideways, my spine was sideways. So it kind of explained the issues I was having with breathing, because it wasn't just jaw things. It was I couldn't quite feel like I could never get a deep enough breath, which was part of the reason for the tuning issues, because I couldn't get all my breath. I couldn't release my jaw, all the things singers need, I couldn't do. And so I discovered that, which was helpful. It made me feel a little bit better and hopeful for the future, but still really worried about what treatment for that looked like. Would I be able to sing again? And during this time, of course, I got to go to Japan for about 2 weeks. And so the reason why I didn't start treatment was because we went to Japan in December. And so my doctor wanted to wait till after the holidays to start this treatment, and after I had gotten back from that trip. So, which will be an important detail that I'll circle back to. But just remember that I didn't start treatment until after the holidays because of the Japan trip.
By the way, I had no idea
that
there was anything going on the trip.
Yeah. It was pretty rough on the trip, a lot. I had a lot of pain medicine and stuff that I brought with me, but traveling, having severe scoliosis and then being in an airplane and then moving around was a lot. But but the Lord was really gracious, and I remember not having a ton of issues with my jaw on the trip, which was crazy. With my jaw, I think I said jaw, but yeah, with my jaw on the trip, because I don't know, it was weird. The Lord just kind of worked that out, because prior to that, in rehearsals, I had talked to you, just had some issues sometimes, and some days just in a lot of pain, and I'm talking extreme pain, not able to sleep at night, some days difficult to eat, difficult to just do anything. So I get back from Japan, holidays are over, start treatment, and within about a month of starting treatment, I noticed some significant relief, and I guess I didn't realize the extent of it because I've always like struggled, been in and out of chiropractic with like back issues and neck issues, and I just didn't realize that they were all related. And so I just started feeling so much relief in my back and my neck, and things that I didn't know that I had previously even struggled with until I was like out of pain. And so that was a huge answer to prayer. So I started singing again, started feeling like, okay, I think I can, get up to speed with everything and I'll be able to get back on track. So my life starts to, finally come back together, and then it doesn't. In January, I received a message from my work that would cause me to have to leave school for a year. They had something they needed me to do for a year. And so this is like right at, my last 2 semesters of school. So I was like freaking out a lot. Of course it's like, perfect timing. And so, and then it was also really challenging because my now fiance had just moved here from North Carolina, quit everything, quit his job, moved here to try to propose to me. So of course he's really upset. I'm really upset.
Because they're going to have you way far away from here, and he just moved here
Yeah,
to
he
be
just
with
moved
you.
here to be here. Yeah, our entire relationship has been, up until that point, was long distance. So we were long distance for a year. So we were both like, really? We're going to do long distance again? Okay. So that was very challenging. And that was a really, really, I think, dark time in my life. I just didn't know what the Lord was doing. I had just gone through this whole thing with my jaw, and like now I'd be leaving, putting, for singers too, like putting a pause, and well, any instrumentalist, I guess, putting a pause in your study like that and not being able to do it for a year is like detrimental. So that was really hard too. And then at that point, I'm wondering, okay, do I even need to be singing? Like, do I need to be doing this? Which is frustrating because I've already poured so much time into school and so much money into this, singing and studying. And so that semester was really hard. I was trying to figure out what to do, trying to arrange my schedule so I could graduate early or over the summer. And so the end of that semester, like during finals week, I got a text message from my boss, and he basically had said, hey, did you say that you had some kind of issue with your back? Because I had talked to him about it, and I told him, yeah, I did. And he was like, okay, well, I don't think that you can do this job for us because our policy is that, you have to be able, we have to legally allow you to be treated. And where you'd be going, we couldn't treat you. And that's all he said. And so I'm texting him back and forth, and I was like, okay, does that mean I'm not going now? Because if so, I need to rearrange my life again, because I just rearranged it, And so he didn't respond, and I was freaking out again, and thinking, wow, Lord, okay, wow, or am I maybe not having to go now? And so then a couple days he called me back, and he was like, yeah, you're not going. And I was like, just like that, And I think it's crazy because we pray so much for God to move in certain ways, and sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't, and this is an example of the Lord working things out in the way that I really wanted it to. And he is so faithful and so good for that, but sometimes the Lord doesn't always do that, and he's still faithful and he's still good. Because he has a much bigger plan, And so I was thinking later on about this whole endeavor and how the timing just worked out exactly right to where, with my treatment and everything, preventing me. Well, let me circle back to that. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So my my treatment basically was supposed to end in it's supposed to end in December, end of November, early December, because it was about a year long because of the Japan trip. had I started it earlier, had I not gone to Japan, I would have been done with my treatment. Therefore, I would have had to leave. And so the very thing, it's so beautiful that the very thing that was such heartbreak to me the semester before, the Lord knew and used that to shield me from having to, leave my family and my friends and my fiance and my study, So, yeah, I think that has just been something I've been thinking a lot about, just how blessed I am and how fortunate I feel to be able to see. Sometimes we don't always see like the fruit of our trials and like the reason behind them, but this I feel like was an instance where I got to see the reason why I went through the whole thing with my jaw. And Henry and I both, my fiance and I, we just feel so blessed and so incredibly undeserving, because I certainly did not have a great attitude through those things. I had my good days and my bad days, but there was a lot of tears and a lot of just maybe not questioning God, but just a lot of insecurity, I feel like. And I do want to read for you something which is kind of ironic. The day before I found out about my thing with work causing me to leave, I was going through a commentary by A.W. Pink, going through the Gospel of John, and there was like a series of quotes that were just really powerful. And again, this is before all of that. I was doing this at the time when my life was starting to kind of get back together again. And I posted it on social media. And I'm going to read it for you, and then I will talk a little bit about that. But so the quote from A.W. Pink says, "Sometimes the darkness becomes even more gloomy, well nigh unbearable, and still he waits." And again, we wonder why. Is it not that all our hopes may be disappointed, that our plans may be frustrated, till we reach our wits' end, and then just as we had given up hope, he breaks forth unexpectedly, and we are startled as were the disciples on the storm-slashed sea. God's blessings do come, despite all our undeserving. Christ never fails, though there is nothing but failure in us. His arm never is withdrawn for a moment, nor his love chilled by our skepticism and ingratitude. And then he says how thankful we should be that God's blessings are dispensed according to the riches of his grace, and not according to the poverty of our faith. And he follows that with Psalm 107, 28 through 29. Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress. He made the storm be still, and the waves of the sea were hushed. And I posted that, right before I found out all of this. And my mom saw it, and she said, "Well, that's really funny that you posted that the day before. My world just caved." And now, I remember being kind of annoyed at myself at the time. Like when I posted that, I was like, oh, I didn't even know, that all of these things were going to happen. And because I had felt like I was supposed to be out of a trial after the jaw thing, and then I was going back into another one. And just to, after all of that, to come out on the other end of that, as the quote was kind of talking about, through our skepticism, through our unbelief, he is still gracious, and he is still so faithful. And now I look at it, and even if I did have to go, the Lord, close to the end, before I found out the news that I didn't have to go, I had finally come to a place where I was like, okay, Lord, I know that you are gracious, and I know that you are sovereign, and I know that you will protect me. And if this is what you've called me to, I know that you'll give me the grace to endure. And so that's that's my testimony
That's
about
great.
what God's been doing recently in my life.
That's so wonderful. So with Henry, what would have happened to your wedding date had you needed to leave for work? If work had sent you, what would have happened?
So we would have had to. So the element here is that my dad wanted us to wait till we were graduated. That was his wish for us, and we wanted to honor that. And so because that would have postponed my graduation by a year, we would have had to wait like 2 years to get married.
Cool.
Which, you know, for us, we had already been dating a year and really certain that, you know, we wanted to be married, we wanted to start a family, you know, this is what the Lord had for us. I wanted to have kids pretty early on, and so to have to wait 3 years to even get married, total, like, and that's even just like planning, that's the engagement, you know, so maybe even like 4, like just that, you know, immense amount of time, way longer than we wanted to wait. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now?
And now we're getting married in March, so we're 5 months away.
Wow.
So we are very excited. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful news.
Yeah. And every day that, you know, some days I come back from school and I just, you know, I tell them like, you know, wow, today is a gift because I'm not supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and every moment is just so cherished. And sometimes I drive to school and I'm like looking at all the beautiful fall leaves and I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you that I get to be here and I get to see this and I get to study music and finish with my friends and graduate with, you know, my class and do my senior recital and all of these things. So, yeah.
And all that would have been so pressured and squished into so little time, and you wouldn't have been able to do it with all these people that you've shared the experience with. So.
Yeah, because if I did go, I would have had to do, I think we had fixed it to where my last 2 semesters before I left would have had to be like, I think like 19 credits one semester and 20 credits the next, and then my recital at the very end of that over the summer.
Wow.
It just would have been, and that would have been my last couple months with my family as well. So it would have just been not ideal.
No.
So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing all this. It really is a blessing.
Of course.